Mark was sitting with some difficulty, the pain in his stomach intense, enough that his vision was starting to blur at the edges. That in itself was a shame, for the view here was so nice. The park was almost empty this early in the morning, the sun not even clearing the horizon yet. The sky a soft blue that was streaked with fiery orange and the faded purple of a dying night. The bench he had chosen was at the edge of a pond, and ducks swam lazily across the surface, a ripple in the water jutting out behind them as they moved. Mark breathed in deeply. It was a bit cold, only the beginning of spring, the leaves on the trees bright green, but a crisp chill in the wind. He closed his eyes and tried to let the pain pass, if it would. Someone was there, and Mark opened his eyes to see a tall man in a long coat. The man looked to him, his face mostly hidden in a deep shadow under the brim of a hat.
Can I sit?
Mark didn't spare him another glance, but he knew the man would talk.
Nice morning.
Sure is.
Mark knew him, of course, but not really. He'd only met him earlier that morning, but he had been expecting him for a long time.
You know, sometimes I think about getting out of this line of work.
Mark envied him the coat as the air seemed to somehow grow even colder. Maybe that was just the gunshot in his gut, the one that was killing him though. Every breath was a blazing effort, a fiery pain in the pit of his stomach that seemed to spread up to his chest. It was becoming hard to breathe.
Maybe you should.
Well, it's a living, you know.
It will catch up to you.
Probably.
They sat in silence for a moment. Mark was the one to break it as the blood continued to run freely, soaking the front of his shirt and running down to his jeans.
What's your name?
The man paused, and Mark knew he was deciding on whether to give him a fake name or not. When he finally spoke, Mark believed him. There was no point in lying to a dying man.
Thomas.
Have you worked for Rodrigo a lot?
Long enough.
Mark had once worked for Rodrigo too, until he hadn't anymore, and until he had gone to the police with what he knew. He closed his eyes and grimaced, his hand on the ragged wound in his stomach. The end was coming, and Mark was surprised to find it didn't scare him. He went to it, silently, bravely, without a tear in his eye. Thomas waited for a moment, making sure the other man was really gone. And then he stood, the familiar weight of the gun against his ribs, in its holster under his coat. He looked at Mark for a moment. And then he left.